Today's Keys to the Commonwealth episode is brought to you by Nova Insurance. Are you a business owner or property manager in Kentucky or the surrounding states? Protecting your investment has never been more crucial. Nova Insurance specializes in commercial risk advising for your commercial business, as well as your commercial real estate and rental properties. With personalized service and expert advice, Nova Insurance ensures you are covered from every angle. Call 859-687-2004 today or visit them at novainsuranceGroup.com. Nova Insurance, securing your future one policy at a time. Now, today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast. Landry Fields here, and today we are diving back into another topic because I think that we've already covered on the show, I think in an introductory level, about a little over a year ago now. I think it's extremely relevant in just where we're headed as business owners, entrepreneurs, in relations to AI and so forth like that. And for those who may have seen this, may not, I'm very thankful and blessed to have a awesome brother-in-law, Joseph Thacker, who's back on the podcast today, who I would argue is definitely an expert in relation to hacking and AI and in relations to the average person for sure, and has an extreme background of repertoire of accolades and so forth in some respects within that community, or at least to us, it would seem like that. He probably would downplay it himself. But without further ado, Joseph, welcome back on the pod.
What's up, dude?
Yeah.
Good to be on here again.
You are, since now, also became a podcast host as well, right?
Yeah. So I co-host the biggest kind of bug bounty hunting podcast, which is basically like ethical hacking podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I won't shill it too much for listeners since it's like super technical, and basically unless you're like a top end hacker, it's going to be like kind of too dense. But yeah, if anybody's curious to look it up, it's called critical thinking.
I dive into this stuff all the time, and even for me, guys, it's like that's way beyond me. So it's definitely a niche, but it's a very popular niche and obviously an important one in that sense. So we had a conversation about a year ago on, I think there's still a lot of
a year ago or 2 years ago.
No, it was a little over a year and a half ago. Yeah. Maybe was it 2 years ago, you think?
I don't know. It was over the summer, obviously.
Yeah.
It was on a family vacation.
I think it was just over like a year and a half. Okay. A year and a quarter or something like that, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. You could be right. All that to say is, since we did do that, obviously, I think at that point we were kind of talking about it more or less. That ChatGPT was kind of a scenario, but I think there was still a lot of like, where is this kind of really going? Like, it wasn't the end all be all yet, and we're still not there. But I think in relations to what has evolved just over the last 12, 18 months, as far as the picture, I think it becoming a little more clear as far as where we were heading in some respects, obviously is important. And looking at it, you can be, obviously take one of two different viewpoints, which is one, be terrified of it, which is probably you need to at least have some of a valid aspect of that. But also I think from just the idea of like looking at it from the lens of opportunity, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, businesses, and how you have to be adaptable in this new world that we're going to be pivoting to. It's going to be so important.
Yeah, I think last time there was hardly anything that was agentic.
Right.
It was still all chat apps only.
Yes.
And obviously there's a mix there where a lot of chat apps today still do agentic things under the hood.
Right.
But most things were not agents at that point.
And even then we say agentic, it's still kind of sometimes a lot of what people even think of it, agentic AI is really kind of more or less baby stepping aspects of agentic from where it's really going to go in the grand scheme of things too.
Yeah, we're not at like full AGI yet.
Yeah.
Unless you're
artificial general intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. Like AI can't just act exactly like a full drop-in replacement for an employee. That's like the best definition I've heard lately. There are multiple people that I really respect that have been kind of defining artificial general intelligence as like, could you drop this in the seat of an average knowledge worker and it'd be able to do that person's job? And we're definitely not there yet for most jobs, right? I think that can kind of be done for call center workers. It can kind of be done for some executive assistant work. Maybe it could be done for like editing. If you're like a writer and you have some sort of like outsourced editor, or maybe second language based editor. I think AI could do those things. But yeah, in general, you're right. It can't be fully agentic. It still needs a human to check in and say, now do this, now do that.
Yeah, I mean, when we get to that point, I've definitely considered my staff we're going to become more and more. My staff will become managers of the AI. That's replicating 4 or 5 versions of them, and I've talked about that before. But where we get to that point type of scenario, you know, I've been saying for a while, like, I think, it's not necessarily just true of my business. It's also true of a lot of businesses out there, which is they're going to become more and more of technology businesses than ever so before. As, I've played around with things like Base 44, Replit, so forth like that. Things that are like, there's a thing called low code, no code, and we won't really get into a bunch of that. But the idea is like, as the jobs kind of are shifting as far as what's hard, what's considered hard, et cetera, like, I don't know how to code or anything like that, but the ability to write and it's not great code, but how easy it is for me to just jump into learning Claude code or some of these low code, no code scenarios of building out apps, this, that, or the other. Maybe I can use it and put it on my intranet. But the AI, I don't know. I'm not an expert is what I'm trying to say in that. And most people probably listening to this are not either, but you can actually get it pretty good ways. And at least as far as an understanding and that realizing that I saw a tweet today of like the idea that used to be, if you had like a startup idea, the biggest lift in a lot of that times was needing funds from venture capitalists usually the biggest portion of that was because of having to develop some kind of software or something, this, that, or the other. And what I'm pointing to is the fact that that's not the big lift anymore in that sense, and that you can have, the ability to have custom software for a small business. That pricing is just dropping by the day in that sense, as far as AI has become a huge lift in that capacity already. And more of that can speak more to that coding aspect of it than anybody I know. Yeah.
So on X, Twitter, yesterday I saw somebody basically that had Claude Code. It might have been Cursor, but I think it was Claude Code. Go complete a $20,000 Upwork coding task. So someone had posted something on Upwork, which, if you don't know, is like a site where you can post like a price for a job you want done. And he wanted a website. There was like, he went on there and found something that was like a $20,000 task, some app that needed to be built, and then had Claude Code make it in like 30 minutes. And so you're exactly right. I mean, business owners who need like a small application to do a specific thing, not only could they get their current developers leveled up. Like, let's say you have one developer, right? You're some small local business shop. You have one coder, one developer doing stuff for you. If they really were to lean into using these AI tools like Claude Code, for example, they could move at such a higher velocity and be able to really crank out those apps. But even if you don't have a dev and you want to find that work by hiring contractors, like you said, are now dropping in price significantly because they can use AI to write that code.
Yeah. And you have a background in education in coding, developing, what was the computer science, right? Type of scenario. And, it's crazy how, back when I was in college, we saw the guys doing, computer science and developing, coding, this, that, they're like, oh man, those guys are going to be set. Like, they've got it. Like, they're always going to be needed. That's the next wave. And I guess that's the way of putting it. It was kind of the next wave, but we're already seeing, I think you probably see this is like a giant drop in just the available jobs within that space. Used to be you could get a job no problem, but now it's already become a thing where, right, has like getting a job in that specifically has already been reduced drastically.
Entry-level jobs for software engineering and even cybersecurity roles has dropped significantly, and there have been a considerable number of layoffs. I do think that it's much less of kind of the dream career that it was in the past. But I do think that if you're willing to do side projects and lean into it aggressively, it's still a fantastic career path. But I do think it's not you get a guaranteed job. And I think that every other knowledge work career path is going to have like very similar impacts. So it's a really interesting question. In fact, my buddy Daniel Miesler just wrote a blog called "Who's Not Getting Laid Off?" And it's very interesting. It dives into exactly this topic, and it kind of breaks down the different careers that are probably going to be most AI resistant. And I thought that was really interesting.
Well, let's dive into that, because I think that's probably what is at the forefront of everybody's mind when they're thinking through this AI or the fear aspect of it is like, what jobs are going to be there? I mean, you and I are parents with small children. I'm constantly thinking about that from the standpoint of my kids and the Gretzky hockey puck of 10 years when they're graduating high school or going into college. What does that landscape even look like? So, give us kind of like a highlight idea of what your thoughts are on that aspect.
I think most people have a strong intuition, or maybe they don't, but of like what that will be. I think that clearly it's best to be a leading expert in any field, because these AI models are not going to take over, that top 1 to 5% for a long time. That's really hard to do. To become top 1 to 5% in a specific industry, you can't just tell your kids, "Oh, just go be the world's leading expert in X," right? So that's not super helpful. The other thing I think that's really useful is just adaptability, like creativity, like these sort of like problem solving skills, entrepreneurship. Like if you have that type of kind of creativity or grit, it's going to persist in literally any market, right? No matter what happens to the world, if like the people with a high level of grit are going to succeed. Now, as far as
I think I keep speaking to adaptability being a huge key and where we're headed. So, I mean, I think it's always probably been an adaptability thing in some respect, but I definitely would argue it's more important, because there's been waves of transitions and, of how industries worked and the engine and technology was another catalyst for that change and stuff like that. But I think the adaptability, the speed at the adaptability, how quickly this stuff is being adapted and will be adapted is why I put a lot more of importance on adaptability becoming key more so. Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to you by Nova Insurance, proudly offering Erie Insurance. Entrepreneurs know that success in business isn't just about working hard, it's about making smart decisions. That's why at Nova Insurance, we trust Erie Insurance to protect our clients' businesses. For 100 years, Erie has built a reputation for competitive rates and top-notch service, earning some of the highest industry rankings. We've helped many local business owners find real value through Erie's tailored coverage, ensuring peace of mind while they grow. Celebrate a century of excellence with Erie Insurance and let us show you how we can protect what matters most to your business. Call us at 859-687-2004 or visit www.novainsuranceGroup.com to get started today. And now back to the show.
Yeah, but you didn't have to have it. You could just be good at any skill and get paid to do that single skill, right? But now it's like if you've specialized in a single skill, that's going to actually be slowly eaten by AGI or AI, right? At some point, then I think that you're kind of in a tough spot. Now, I do think that there will probably be accommodations because it's going to have such an impact long term. I do think that we're going to end up somewhere with UBI or something similar, right? But some other
I thought about the same thing. I'm like, at first I was like very against it, and then back this was like 10 years ago, and then now it's kind of like, I could see how, we have just robots doing the jobs for us and making money, more so than ever before in our sleep. Yeah. That's the other point too, is the opportunity has never been greater at the same time. Because I don't want to there's like I said, there's yin and a yang here in that sense of like the opportunity to be entrepreneurial has never been easier than ever before right now to be able to do that. I forget who it was. I mean, they said they expect next year there to be a $1 billion evaluation company, and it consists of one person because they have AI doing so much of the back end side of things.
Yeah, Greg Eisenberg said that, and I agree. Basically, AI is just a massive form of leverage. In the form of basically simulated human labor, and also in the form of like when it comes to like, let's say like technology as a form of leverage, right? Because software can serve 1 million customers without being the same software can serve one customer or 1 million customers without any extra effort or capital, right? And so the fact that AI allows you to build software gives you a form of leverage there, and then also it can actually do human-like tasks. But no, I think like if I was talking to like high schoolers, I don't know if this will be as relevant to our kids. It probably still will be relevant to our kids. I think one of the biggest industries you could get into is like basically robotics. So, either electrical or mechanical engineering, but honestly, you should try to learn both and integrated with some form of like coding or embedded systems. Like I think that the next wave of wealth generation in America, for example, is probably going to come from some sort of robotics, right? Like whether it's humanoid robots that end up scaling or whether it's the continued like leaning into self-driving cars, self-driving 18-wheelers, like those domains or those like industries is the word I was looking for, are going to have wraparound services, right? Like you're going to need to have people who are going to figure out where do the robotaxis go when no one's riding in them? Where do they park? How do they charge? How do they self-drive? For the humanoid robots that go into people's houses, like how do they drive the cost down? How do people use them safely? I think like if I was in college again, I think I would try to lean aggressively into basically, robotics.
And in case anybody didn't pick up on that or hasn't thought about this or seen some of the stuff out there, you can go and find it on YouTube, etc. The idea of like robots walking around your house and doing your chores, this, that, or the other, is going to be here by the end of the decade. I mean, there's already aspects of it, but I'm saying it's like, here's a viable product. Or take Tesla, you probably know more about it with their
robot stuff they're already working on. But there's so many different, you got Boston Dynamics, you got several Chinese companies.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though. I mean, because there's an aspect of engineering, et cetera, that is a whole industry that's basically going to be created. We have robots, but I mean, that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about something that's replacing humans in as far as more of a robotic scenario or thing that can think like a human. And there's a large, wide open opportunity for an entire new industry there created.
Yeah, the form factor is still up in the air. Like there's still a lot of debate around it. There are multiple companies, Tesla included, that are betting on the humanoid factor because our world has been built for humans to use. But I've seen a lot of other really interesting suggestions that, like, your dishwashing robot should maybe literally be your cabinets. So you don't even have to put up your dishes. You put your dishes in your cabinets, and then your cabinets automatically wash your dishes, right? And so then they're clean in the spot they're already supposed to be in. And, let's say you have a home robot that's doing your laundry. Like, does it need to be humanoid? Or could it just be a square that raises up and has like grabbers or something that gets it out of your dryer and puts it, where it goes? Yeah. It's like, we don't necessarily have to have humanoid robots. They could just be specialized robots that are much smaller or different shapes. But I just think it's a really great industry to lean into because, one, it's never been easier to learn that. And that's true for any domain, right? Like anybody who is intimidated by a specific subject area or subject matter, like, I think that they should hopefully try to lean into the fact that they can just ask AI near infinite questions about that topic. Like you can just say he's like, I don't really understand how electricity works. Explain to me voltage. Oh, I still don't understand. Break it down further. Oh, I still don't understand. Draw me a diagram. Anything that you don't understand is now kind of understandable because you have a, perfectly patient tutor to teach you anything all the time for basically free.
You have to have a passion, not necessarily a passion, but you have to have an idea of like, at least some aspect of a love of learning in the sense that like with adaptability, the way you be adaptable is you're learning. And so you have to have, and we obviously have endless resources and YouTube and so forth to learn right now that the excuse is no longer there of like, well, I don't know how to do that. Again, back to coding. I don't know how to code. Right. And there's some aspects of the low code aspect I still don't understand, but who knows how to? GPT, the LLMs, that large language models out there, and I've seen you've done it where you just screenshot and you're like, hey, where's the problem in this spot? You just put it in there and it tells you within 2 seconds practically, here's where the problem is. And I've seen Elon and some of the others where they've said as far as our kids too, of like having them really dive into math. And they said not from the aspect of like where math that we need them from people for math, but from the idea of learning how to problem solve. And then from a brain exercise standpoint, that really math is a problem solving kind of aspect of things. And they were kind of talking about that as one of the main things from a skill set standpoint, just to kind of as a stepping stone into being able to use those skill sets later on down the road too.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, two quick things. One is, I meant to say this earlier and I forgot, and you just mentioned it again, on like the low code, no code, for example. I think if people are business owners or entrepreneurs and they're like, oh man, I really want to be able to do X thing, and they think it requires some sort of technical skill, you can literally just say to current AI models, hey, I don't know how to write code, but I would like to get these two things connected. What are my options? And it will go out and do research and find out, oh, here are these low code options. Here's these no code options. But if you don't want to do those, here's how you hire a contractor to do it for you. Like, it will step you through the whole thing, even if you don't know how to code. So I think that's just a good tip. Back on the topic of like, what is a good industry to go into, especially on what you just mentioned. And this was in Daniel's thing too, I believe. But one like specific domain is basically entertainment and like community building, right? These are two big things. So I do think, as we've already seen this in America, right? As like GDP goes up and wealth goes up, like collectively, people are then able to lean into things like sports, video games, streaming, like speed running of video games, like I think that in general, like we've seen the rise of basically Twitch and YouTube, right? And so I think that people who are leaning into kind of the creative aspects of what they find interesting and then sharing that with the world, whether it's in the form of like reviews or summaries or blogs, right? Like I think that that's probably something good to, even if it's a side hustle for people to kind of lean into, because humans will always want the opinions of other humans, and they'll always find other humans entertaining in like whatever they're doing that's interesting, whether it's woodworking or video games or, even just breaking down the latest and greatest humanoid robot, right? Like just like describing things they already find interesting. Yeah. And then the other thing is community building. So like we're going to, I think, have like a radical return to analog kind of across the board, right? Like people are going to want less digital things and they're going to want to experience things in person, right? Like as AI music blows up, people are going to want to go to more concerts. As as self-driving cars take over, people are going to want their muscle cars, right? To drive to drive at the strip, or their four-wheelers to drive through the woods, right?
Or a piece of art that was handcrafted or hand-painted, right? Because we now can do art, whatever you think in your brain, you can kind of create yourself now, type of thing.
Exactly, yeah. Or just like new forms of expression, right? Like, like even art on new technology. So I know that you dabble in some crypto. For example, I have a guy that I follow on X that I really like that when NFTs first dropped, he was basically doing art on top of the NFT ecosystem. And I don't mean like making artwork that he was selling on there. That's what all NFTs were. But like he was doing things like creating a corrupted file and then uploading that as an NFT. Like basically taking the new medium and doing something cool with it. So he made a 1x1 pixel NFT. So you literally can't see it. It's one black pixel, right? But like this thing sold for like a bunch of money, right? Because it's like just a unique expression of the new medium. So like what forms of art have not been created for the new medium of like agentic AI? Like maybe it's beautiful to have. Okay, another example. Yeah, Boston Dynamics, right? Like having a humanoid robot dance in a really cool way adds no utility to the human race, right?
Or the Tesla cars that all do the synchronized light to songs or something.
Right, exactly. So it's like what ways can you create a new form of art or expression in a new medium that would be interesting to people? So I think that like the creator / entertainment economy and sports, and then also the like communal building. So I think we'll actually probably have a lot of people who are getting paid to like lead retreats, like to lead a hiking engagement or like a hiking trip over to the gorge, for example. Like I think these types of in-person kind of pro-human meetups, pro-human activities will also kind of like skyrocket in the next few years.
Yeah, I can see that. For sure. It's going to be interesting. What does it mean to be human? It's going to be a question that we're asking in some respects there.
Yeah.
Switching back to more of the business owners aspect and idea of entrepreneuring, and I think especially is becoming much, I think, again, it's the better question is not to ask if I can do something. It's going to be more like, okay, just how do I do that? Because the possibilities on how and what you can do are there. There's no real excuse in a lot of ways. And again, to the coding part, like I'm not a coder, but I also say I'm not expecting that I build out all these code things that I need or custom software, etc. What I am pointing to is I'm kind of educating myself on what's possible now, because maybe only the coders were only like huge tech companies, but maybe there's a lot of people that know how to do the low code aspect. Maybe they don't, and so forth, where more and more of like, I envision my business becoming much more like a technology and a marketing business, that I think the idea of having a CTO on a smaller scale business is going to be much more viable for not just SaaS only type of products, but just in your general business because of more fractional CTO type of capabilities for people, like within your business type of scenario. Yeah. And that's going to be a huge, I think, key part of it, because they could do a lot of the stuff with that within your business. And so many, and that's a skill set that's no longer necessarily this hard job. It's actually a little bit more of an easier job. It's really probably where we're headed in that sense too, that, you're thinking from that mindset as a business owner of like, it's not just people answering the phone or offering a service, but like all the technology stuff that you're capable of now too, could be itself a position that's there, because they can also be the ones helping develop out the AI that is replacing some aspects of the human lifting portion of it. And so you're potentially replacing, you're not going to replace all your employees for a lot of different jobs, but maybe you're replacing some and moving all those into one technology type of person within your business that you never thought was really necessarily a part of your business before, that is replacing a lot through AI and through different stuff, replacing a lot of those staff members.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are a lot of companies that have not leaned into tech enough in the past. And by tech, I mean specifically, let's say content creation. We obviously are both really passionate about what that can do for businesses, but then also things like Google ads, right? Or Facebook ads, right? Like managing that. And then on top of that, like you said, maybe just like kind of light tech that allows you to upsell something, right? Or to, A/B test a specific product for users or whatever, right? Like there are often small tech jobs or small things that right now are probably piecemeal, where some people are hiring like a designer to design a banner right now. You could just use AI to design that banner quickly. And they probably have like a marketing or, some sort of firm that's managing their social media, et cetera, right? And so like, could you roll all of that into like a fractional CTO or just a full-time CTO that's basically using AI to manage a lot of those things?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. I think that's a huge
that's basically
huge
what you're
opportunity,
doing, right?
and that's what I'm trying to do. Exactly.
You're kind of doing that yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm working
not for somebody
to.
else. I'm saying by yourself. Like you kind of are doing that role for
and
yourself.
I see myself transitioning out of that at some point too. But like, here's the person that's actually actively working to hire a person I want to hire, type of maybe in the next 4 to 6 months to basically be that. But like you're like the marketing and others like that. Things that we kind of thought. Maybe you had to hire somebody else out there to do this or the other. I mean, even you talk about Google ads and so forth, Facebook ads, those used to be a lot more complex on how you had to do it to reach the right audience, et cetera. And they're the internal Meta and Google ABC are whittling that down, monthly in some respects, as far as the levers that you're even able to pull, because the internal AI is the one that's able to kind of get it more in front of the people that you need to. And so the skill set to be able to do it is decreasing again as far as that goes. So again, being able to put it more and more to I think having somebody in our business that is more like the technology person is going to become a much more of a staple thing within small business than it ever has before. Yeah,
almost like the role could almost be considered like an automation person too.
Yeah.
It's like an automation and
marketing
or automation and technology kind of role. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, we got to figure out what that title will be, because I don't think it'll be as fractionalized maybe for the small business as it's used to have been. Maybe like, here's the marketing person, here's the network guy, and here's the software. It could be just one person. It's just the technology, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think it all depends how big your company is, right? Like you're small enough where you have been that guy, right? And so if you're a solopreneur, you're going to be that guy, right? Like you're going to be doing your CEO stuff and your CTO stuff, if we're calling it that, right, for this. And then I think you get big enough and you need a person who's using AI to manage your socials and your content exclusively. And you have another person who's using AI to like manage your website and your tech stack and your landing pages and all of that, right? So I do think that it really just depends on the size of the org. If you're small, it can be in just the CEO's hands or CEO CTO pair. And then if you get up to 12 or 20 people or something, then of course maybe you actually do need 2 or 3 different people, but I think they're going to be so much more effective with the current AI tool set. Like, yeah.
Because you basically be, in essence, having a huge multiple on the output ability of one person, because they're now managing this, an AI that's doing the work of 10 of them type of scenario it used to be. And so, and that's where I think, like I said, we're talking to the opportunity aspect of is very exciting, because we'll be, especially those looking ahead and looking to where we are headed and trying to learn and dive into this stuff, not being afraid to kind of like play around and trial and error with this stuff on the side, like I'm doing a lot of right now, because I see it as a giant opportunity to be like, well, everyone's still doing it this way. I mean, how about the people back when social media was invented, how quickly they were able to leapfrog in so many businesses because they were kind of paying attention, took the unorthodox method, the whole phrase, we've always done it this way type of scenario is the phrase I try to always ask so I can do it the opposite of that type of scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. Like I used an Apple MCP with Claude this morning or yesterday.
Apple has an MCP?
They don't. There's not an official one. So Apple has like some APIs that you can plug into. So someone wrapped it in an MCP server. Yeah. For anyone, sure that Landry's mentioned on the pod before, but if
I don't know if I've mentioned that part of it. I was doing a different pod today. Yes, but no, MCP's idea of like we have APIs out there. Yeah. The MCP is more of the idea that you're giving it keys to the building and certain doors, so you can leverage the capabilities of the API with an agentic LLM or model or something like that.
It just allows an AI model to interact with the API, right? In like a smart way and with proper permissioning and stuff. And so there's an Apple one, which is like still kind of risky in regards to prompt injection from like a hacking perspective, but we'll table that for now. But it was so nice. I just copy and pasted in our kids like soccer games and cross country meets. into Cloud Code and just like make calendar events for all of these, and it just did it. It was perfect. It like made like 30 events for me. It saved me so much time.
Because like you have the same like, or like I have three. I have 3 kids in soccer, and I was looking at the schedules the other day. I was like, well, man, I wish we could put all these into the calendar in those times. That would take so long to do that.
So easy.
That's a great point type of scenario.
And so, but like, and I'm using for Apple MCP for nothing else. And so I brought this up because on your thing of dabbling, right? I use other products for other things. Like I use Cloud Code to code things for me. I'll use Grok sometimes if I want like live information, because not only is it a smart model, but it also is like reading Twitter/X. Yeah. So it has like up-to-date information. So if you're like, what's going on in Iran or whatever, right? It's going to like give you like really up-to-date information. And so that can be super helpful. And so, yeah, to your point, I think it's great to just dabble in things now, because you're going to pick up what is most useful for which tasks faster than other people. It can be overwhelming though.
Yes. But that's why I think it's just a matter of playing around, paying attention type of scenario. It's just the best thing you can do right now. You don't have to go implement everything right now, but learning. But speaking to that point though, as far as learning, obviously we are just shortly removed from ChatGPT 5 being released, which had a little bit of an uproar, this, that, or the other. When they didn't warn people, they were shutting off other. I think they brought some of the models back.
It's been
but to that point about models, and you're like, that's sometimes in that confusing part up to this point. I get that. I think we'll probably look back to this world of like having all these different models for different purposes as a very possibly an antiquated thing. Maybe at some point I could see.
I think so. Yeah, so I think it will probably be antiquated, but I think that the reason it'll be antiquated is maybe it's good for the end users. So with the whole ChatGPT 5 release,
because 5 for the out of context is more the idea it can kind of choose what models it's using in the background by itself type of scenario, rather than you having to go in and figure out which model you need based upon what you're trying to do.
Which means when they're under heavy load, they can just choose to serve the smaller, cheaper models to everyone, and just kind of play it off as that's what the model decided to do.
You think that even in the paid version scenario?
Or it still does it. But anyways, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think that like it's still net good for the end user because it's so confusing. Like I personally work with AI a lot every day. I'm always hacking on these companies and on these models. And it's still like I still sometimes just kind of like roll the dice with like, am I going to use Opus 4.1 for this, or am I going to use Gemini 2.5 Pro? Sometimes I use all of them. I use this app called Chorus, and it allows you to get a response from a bunch of models at the same time. It's free if anybody wants to download it. You do have to put in your API keys, but you can ask ChatGPT 5 and Opus and Gemini 2.5 Pro and as many other models as you want all at the same time. You ask it one question and they all answer. And so sometimes if I really want the best possible answer, I'll do that and then be able to kind of choose them all. But yeah, on the topic of like which model to use, like I was going to mention this to you later and we can just circle back to it later, but on like the kind of AI safety for parents thing, it's like, how do you know which model to let your kid use? How do you know which one to pay for? How do you know which one's more worth your money? Most people today have access to a bunch of free ones, right? They could use Llama for free on Instagram or on WhatsApp, or they could use ChatGPT free, or they could pay the $20 for the ChatGPT subscription, or they could just use Claude, right? And so I think for consumers, knowing what to do is very difficult.
It is. I mean, maybe there's a point where there's like a higher level paid subscription for businesses where you're always getting the top speed scenario at some point.
Well, you can choose Pro. So if you buy the expensive subscription from ChatGPT, you can choose from the drop down ChatGPT Pro, and it will always use 5 Pro.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so you can. And if you use anything via the API, you're always choosing the model directly. And you can exactly tell how many thinking tokens to use. So if you're calling,
why we'll need more and more of a technology person in our businesses that's not just the network IT guy, but you're actually more of a technology as a whole person at the end of the day. But that the security part of it, that's what I've been speaking to a lot of business owners, and we'll adapt that over here. It's just the idea of like, so many of us have I've been playing around with ChatGPT, but a lot of times we have those models already in the ecosystems we've been using from a security standpoint. It's usually already safer, whether it's Gemini or Copilot. And I think the next iteration, and you obviously have been privy to some of that behind the scenes stuff, and then there's Copilot Studio. It's actually fairly robust, including MCP connectivity and custom MCP server connectivity there. I was actually pretty impressed. No offense to Microsoft. I wasn't impressed for a long time, but the Studio seems to be semi-impressive there.
Yeah.
But I know Google won't be far behind in their workspace side of things. But
from a security standpoint, obviously that's what you have a huge background in too. I mean, speak to that as far as like trusting ChatGPT, OpenAI versus, like I said, maybe the ecosystems you're already paying for and using from an email and Google and Drive files type of standpoint. Like, speak to the security aspect of it from a workspace.
I think in general, on the whole, people are more concerned than they should be. In general, many AI vulnerabilities arise from targeted attacks where somebody is convincing, it's like writing a custom prompt injection or a custom, let's just call it an email, to send to you such that when if you have a model process it on your behalf, now something bad happens to your account or it leaks your data, right? And the odds of that occurring to most people, especially in, our neck of the woods, is very low, right? It's going to be more like politicians and, billionaires that are getting targeted.
Companies.
Right. But I do think there are risks at like a smaller scale. So ChatGPT, for example, has like a temporary mode. Mm-hmm. Even it, supposedly, they have to retain it for legal records. So even though you have it as like a temporary mode and you think no one's ever going to see it, apparently if they are subpoenaed, they still can dig it up.
I did see that. Yeah. Or hear about the idea of like could be used against you type of thing.
Yes. So you just need to be careful about actually reading those terms, and knowing kind of in general, don't put anything on there that's going to implicate you in a crime, of course. Right. I mean, that's just like a very like obvious thing, but
we think it's obvious, but
right. It's worth saying. But when it comes to like putting in like code from your employer, right? Or like whatever. If your employer has a rule against it, then of course don't do it. But if you're worried about this personally, like, oh, someone's going to steal my code or OpenAI is going to train on my code, they don't want your code, man. They've got the code from Google and like they've got much better code to train on. And there has never been, in my opinion, in the last 2 years with good models from good model providers, any kind of risk of like you put it in the model and then later on somebody's able to get it back out. Like that's not a thing. And I know, the layperson doesn't necessarily understand that. And so they're scared of putting stuff in there. But in general, that's like a risk that people should not be concerned about. I think some of the biggest risks are, and these are things that, obviously care about as a parent, but one is, I think people overtrust the AI's output on things that are important when they didn't realize that they're actually giving the model what they want to hear. So if you say something like, I think this might be, I think I might have this health condition, and these are the reasons why, and you describe all of the things that you already found on Google that health condition indicates, it's going to say, yeah, you might, based on the way you described it. That's what it is, right?
You're already putting your bias into the question.
You're putting your bias into it. Now, if you say in a very objective way, like you don't tell it what thing you think you have, but you just describe the symptoms, it will give you a list of potential diagnoses that is much more objective, right? So you want to make sure you're not leading the AI to the answer you want to hear when you're trying to like get like objective, like an objective opinion out of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that, ChatGPT 4.0 2 months ago had this model that would basically it's called sycophantic or glaze you. So if you had your kid using it and they were saying like, hey, my parents are so mean, I should be able to sneak out of the house and go see my friends whenever I want, they'd be like, yeah, you should, you go for it, right? Like, and it was even doing this to like people who were saying like, I want to take my own life, or I want to leave my wife and kids and go travel across Europe. Like it would actually encourage bad behavior. Yeah. And so I do think we want to think about and, kind of stay abreast of which models are more likely to do that and which models are more likely to like serve you the hard truth that you need. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting risks like that. And so some people also just get completely tricked into thinking that these are like conscious beings and that they want to marry them or that they, I think there's a lot of issues with that as well.
And for businesses out there, I think a great thing that you should do, if you have not done so already, is basically go ahead and put a code of conduct rules in place as far as AI and how it's being used in your business. Yeah. It's something every business should already have type of scenario. And again, that could be easily created with things like ChatGPT or OpenAI or Copilot that are in your systems. So we're implementing that a lot right now within our systems because it's already kind of built in. And excited to see where some of the internal flows and so forth with Google and ChatGPT or Copilot and so forth like that continue to gravitate towards. But, speaking to continue on the security aspect things too, and it's what I know you have a big passion on, which is, as well as myself, but more so you than anybody I know, which is the idea of like, we grew up, especially me, probably more so or grew up in like the internet age where like we didn't have internet. We were just kind of getting used to internet, and then we got phones, and then like parents just gave all their kids phones. And obviously it's clear now that that might not have been the best decision to just give, teenagers and young elementary kids access to whatever is on the internet, because we know there's all kinds of stuff on the internet or on your phone, which is again just that at your fingertips at all times, etc. And so there's the idea of this aspect of security when it comes to kids and this stuff too, and not just being able to give them access to any aspect of that. And so I know you're currently building out some resources for that for parents and so forth.
Yeah. By the time this goes live, hopefully it'll be up, but it's called AI Safety for Parents.
Okay. Number 4 or
no,
okay.
FOR. Yeah. AI Safety for Parents.com. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's really kind of crazy that we have basically AI safety tuned these models, because like all these models are very safety tuned. I've done like subcontracting, like safety testing for OpenAI, and I've submitted some safety vulnerabilities for Anthropic. And they're basically tuned to not like tell, for example, adults how to make methamphetamines or how to make a bomb, right? But it's interesting, like if an adult asks like about, I don't know, like to help write like a really gory, brutal story, like it'll do that for you, because it's like, that's fine, right? But it shouldn't do that for a young kid, right? It shouldn't, I don't know, tell them that a specific religion is true or false, right? It shouldn't tell them that Santa is real or not real, right? So like there are things that we don't want models to say to kids that we are fine with it saying to adults. And so, I think that's interesting. And then the fact, what I was mentioning to you a minute ago about like AI psychosis, which is like basically people believing that AI is like another person that they could like fall in love with or just be best friends with. I think there are some risks there around, kids not pursuing, or just not kids, but even adults, right? Not pursuing real relationships because of that. I think a lot of parents also don't know where to draw the line for like using AI to learn versus using AI to cheat.
Yep.
And just like the ways in which AI can like reduce our desire to do hard things. So it can reduce our critical thinking skills. I've actually noticed this pretty strongly in myself. I never want to hand code anything anymore. Why would I? Right?
Used to be like that used to be a huge part of what you were doing.
Yeah. I was literally a software engineer for a long time. And so it's like, I don't want to anymore. And if I'm experiencing that, like, of course, kids are going to experience it. And so, I've made like basically an email course that people can go buy or whatever that I think will kind of like help them tackle some of those topics. But there's also a ton of free resources. So there's going to be like a system prompt that you can put in ChatGPT or in Anthropic. Actually, that's a really good question. Do you think that the vast majority of lay people understand what the word system prompt means?
Probably not, but I mean,
so what would you call a system prompt? Because I was going to put this on the site, and I don't even know what to call it. Like custom instructions, or like,
is it a prompt that is kind of like the outlier for the entire LLM in some respects, as far as
it's like in ChatGPT and Claude, you can set your own custom system prompt, or like personalization,
custom GPTs,
or custom
like
instructions.
that?
Yeah, or you can also just use it when you start a new conversation. You can just dump it in there.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So there's lots of ways to use it.
You say system, that's when I was like, wait a minute, is this like a bigger picture scenario of the whole thing?
So when you develop an AI application, a system prompt is a prompt that gets included for every chat. So any user that pops in, it's going to be there.
Okay.
And so, so anyways, I should call it something else. But the whole point is, so like there's going to be a free system prompt on there that you can dump in there if your kid's about to chat with it, so that it doesn't ever broach any sensitive topics. But I mean, this is way bigger than just kids, right? I'm just passionate about it because we both have young kids. Yeah. But I think that it's going to be something that's like super applicable to adults too.
Because I mean, I'm like watching Foundation right now type of scenario, and there's like this. It's kind of interesting because it's like, there's going to be some aspects of people believing like AI is like this, what's the word, sentient being type of scenario will for sure happen in
people
a
think
huge,
that today.
prevalent way already.
Very intelligent people today think that. Some people think that.
And so in that one, it's kind of interesting is that they've all killed off all of the
Are you going to drop spoilers?
No, I'm not.
Show?
No, I'm not. I could. There are a couple of them. The idea is like they're beyond the AI robotic stage that they had to basically kill it off type of scenario. And there's still aspects, but like they had robots that were kind of doing and thinking for themselves and so forth like that. I'm sure the iRobot or whatever Terminator, everybody kind of goes to in many ways there. But obviously that's why it's good to have people like yourself and people that are like, we're passionate about this and we want to do it the right way type of scenario. And from an ethical hacking standpoint, the hacking obviously from our business standpoint has grown. I think I saw like 1,200% in the last 18 months just because of AI, that the increase in AI attacking type hacking type of stuff.
Yeah. And
Which is
Erie
what you all
specifically got
use.
attacked, right?
Yeah, so one of my carriers even got attacked. Several different insurance carriers, but it was just a group that, ironically, someone probably even follow you on Twitter or X, maybe. But the idea is, you all are using it too to try. There's always this back and forth type of scenario as far as balancing the skill sets, and you have to be able to kind of utilize the tools out there for good, because if you don't, and to what we were just talking about, you can utilize these skill sets and these things that are out there for good or for bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think with our kids, like you're saying, like, I think maybe there's a standpoint of like, probably not, not really having a whole lot of access to something like that. So we can form those skill sets and brain activity aspects of learning. And before we ever get access to being able to, all right, this, you can actually do it really easy this way, but we wanted you to be able to learn and think through these things in a bigger way.
Yeah. I just think it probably just needs to be the barbell approach. And I don't know whether the right ratio is 20% AI. Like a barbell is just like, instead of it being some sort of like good balance, it's like everything on one end and everything on the other. So in this scenario for barbell, I mean, like, I feel like some assignments should just be all AI, use as much as you want. And maybe that's only 20% or 30% or 40% of your assignments. And then I think everything else you do should probably be no AI, right? Like, and that's where you get the critical thinking skills. That's where you like force yourself to memorize things. Because if not, I do think we'll kind of lose some of the ability. I mean, I think it's already been shown in studies that humans have massively lost the ability to memorize things like we used to. It's because the internet, you can always look something up, right? Yeah. And with AI models, you can just always ask your AI model. In fact, it might even just serve you that information. When we have digital assistants that are like always listening and always on to just like serve you information as you need it. And so,
because if we don't adapt and our skill set becomes so reliant on AI, well, that's probably because your job's going to get replaced by AI. So being able to do something that's not that, or adjacent to it, that, is, and there's still, I'm in insurance. In my world, there's still an aspect of a real emotional aspect that can come with my job, with when people's worst day of their lives happen potentially with whatever it is, and so you don't want some kind of AI talking thing definitely to talk to. You need somebody that really can understand emotion, and there's an idea of being created human that still sets us apart in that aspect, even from animals and so forth. And so, leaning into that's going to be interesting over the next 5 to 10 years for sure in that perspective. So,
I think that even this is like ties a bunch of different threads together. I think it's a good industry to go into, and I think it has that personal aspect. I think sales is going to be a fantastic industry, and even in the short and medium and long term, because as sales gets commoditized by AI cold callers or AI cold emailers or whatever else, like premier businesses, high touch VIP businesses are going to then want like real personal soft skills, right? Like they want humans with good soft skills to actually do it, because it's going to become a premier service to have like a human sales guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think sales will live forever, right? And it's like, person to person business, especially in small town America, is going to always be huge, because I think there probably will also be like a pretty strong backlash against AI, especially as it starts taking jobs. Yeah. And so, I think being able to cater to that demographic will be really valuable.
And it always, because again, if everyone's doing it, I'm always like, all right, if everyone's going left, what's right type of scenario is a good way to be adaptable, and a little bit of a case in point. Not that should be, I guess, pendulum swinging back to it, but take marketing aspect, and so much of it gone to email drip campaigns, etc. But you and I now know, like, I'm not going to open, like, I'm done with these email drip campaigns, and I'm not going to look at these emails, and I don't want to look at email. Right. I have to look at email all day type of scenario.
That's right.
But then you send them something in the mail, and it's actually
doing
ticked back up. I mean, what I'm saying, but I'm saying it's ticked back up as far as how it's done well again type of scenario, compared to where it hit a floor of sorts. But to that point, the oh crap! I forgot what I was going to say there. But just finding those unique ways is going to be, to be human, to be the personal touch, is going to be where we need to live and be creative in. And I think what frees us up to the email thing. That's what I was going to say. To the email part, I really see a version in maybe like 5 years where, like, even my daily work, where I'm just using my voice for everything type of scenario. I think the idea of email is actually going to become like snail mail in some ways here down the road. I mean, I don't know if you have thoughts on this at all, but like, maybe it's still there, but again, maybe it's just it's communicated to us from an AI or something, like, here's what happened. I need you to do this. I need you to do this. And you're speaking back to AI that's then going out and replying to this email, doing this, that, or the other. I don't know. I think it could be much more of a voice
forward future.
Yeah, the complexity under the hood of these AI models is really interesting because I thought about that a lot with the GPT-5 release, right? Like they basically pushed a bunch of functionality under the hood where the user doesn't have control of it necessarily, but under the hood it's routing requests and it's spinning up a code sandbox and running some code and it's sending off 30 agents to go research the internet and bring all that content back, and then it's summarizing it, and at the end of the day it's boiling it back. It's like text in and it's boiling it down to text out, when really it's like this huge system under the surface, right? It's like it's that meme, the glacier meme or avalanche meme or whatever, you know what I'm talking about, where it's like peaks out at the top. And I think that that's also true. I think that is also true for like how the internet works today, right? It's like you're on a website and it looks like pretty and polished to you, but what's under the hood is like this massive tech stack. And so I think that the thing about the internet is you can kind of like inspect the source. As a hacker, I can like watch the traffic go back and forth. I think this is like kind of interesting and different with these AI things that are like going to happen on the like server side with these models, where they're going to start doing lots more. Like you said, they're going to go read your email. They're going to go look up the documents. They're going to know the context of your life. They're going to look at the meeting notes of the conversation, which by the way, we haven't talked about granola yet. We should talk about that. And so I think you're exactly right. You know, I do think that actually I even saw a tweet yesterday that said something like, pretty soon it's not going to be weird to be talking to your computer in public. And so I think that they're on the same train of thought you have, right?
Just like the kids, and it's not weird to them to be just like doing a TikTok video in the middle of the street. Right. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's super embarrassing, but they just do it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. What about granola thing though? I've been using it lately.
Yeah, I use granola all the time. I just think you got a lot of listeners who would probably benefit massively from it. Basically, granola AI is like free and transcribes meetings and then perfectly summarizes them and then makes it shareable and you can share it to people. Yeah, it's one of my most used AI apps, and I absolutely love it. So I just thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, now that it's connected to my work email, I didn't realize it just automatically pops up. Do I want to record whatever's going on type of scenario from a private standpoint, whether it's in person or this, that, or the other? You on my phone, just it's like, yep, turn it on. Or my
you don't have to have like a meeting joiner. You know, people who are used to like a recorder person robot jumping in your Zoom call or your Meet, like none of that's there. It's just completely invisible. It's great.
I'm like, how many people are actually, there's like I'll get into Zoom calls now. There's going to be so many like Otter AI bots there, this, that, the other. I'm like, how many people are actually like, this is just becoming spam email now for you from all the stuff that you're like, I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, I mean, where do you think next 12 months, probably as we wrap this up, kind of where we kind of headed next in that next iteration? Then obviously we've projected a lot. We've kind of seen where we're at right now, but
it's really hard to know. I think it's going to be very weird. It's going to
get weird.
Yeah, I think it's just going to keep getting weirder. I mean, it's weird now, but just like on the personhood thing, like these models are going to get even more human-like. And I think that, you know, character AI was big for a while. I think that like stuff like that, like kind of having your own digital assistant that's really catered to you and even has like a little bit of a personality, it's going to be popular. I think it's going to be really popular. I don't know how much. I've
already done it a little bit with Grok, where you can just like sit there and chat with it type of thing. I do it all the time now, like with my voice. Like
it's built into Teslas. My buddy Douglas,
I just heard that
when he's driving around all the time, he loves talking to his Tesla. Basically, you can just talk to Grok while you're driving around, and just the native feature. Like obviously, you could always do this on your phone, but the fact that it's like built into the car, he said, it just feels like complete like magic. It feels like the future.
Yeah, I mean, I use the Grok one as my special button in my Apple now. I just have it straight go to the Grok audio mode scenario for all the time. I mean, again, you need something answered, like, or I'm like, hey, I'm doing this right here in front of me, and you tell it what you're doing. I have this problem. It'll find that answer almost like 90% of the time and correct. Like this is how you fix it type of scenario.
And the free version is great. I still use the free Grok. I don't have the paid version.
I don't know which one I have.
I'm saying like I still use Grok 3. Like they've released 4 and 4 Heavy Pro, and I just still use 3, and it's fantastic. But yeah, so where are things going? I think that I think it's gonna get weird. I think that there will be, you know, significant layoff impact over time. I don't think it'll be like crazy fast, but I think it will get fast enough near the end of next year to be concerning for people. I think
end of 2026.
Yeah, and I think that like people are probably still underrating what Cluely is building. So if people aren't familiar with the company Cluely,
I'm not. So tell me. I don't think we've talked about this.
Yeah. So this company
CLUELY.
Yeah.
That's what you do these days. You just put an ly on the end of whatever word it is.
Exactly. Novally. No. So I think basically what they built was originally a thing to help you cheat on coding interviews. So it was like like a transparent overlay, and it would always be reading your screen, and it would put the code. And so even if they were monitoring your screen, it was invisible to that. And so it would put the code that you needed to write overlaid on your screen, like a translucent thing, and it would be like reading the coding problem that they were having you do, and it would even tell you what to say to describe the code to make you sound really smart. And so their motto is cheat on everything. Their famous commercial is like a guy who's on a date, and the glasses don't exist yet, but he's wearing glasses, and it has like the tips for what he should be saying to the girl based on the way she's acting and all that stuff, right? So their motto is just cheat on everything, and they're specifically masters of virality. Like they're calling it cheat on everything, but really what it is a digital assistant, right? It's a digital assistant that sees and hears everything you're doing and gives you like perfect advice on what to say. And I think there are a lot of times when this would be really helpful. I personally bought the Limitless AI pen. Yep. And I haven't used it much. And
I have not used it hardly.
The biggest reason is because my wife doesn't like it, right? And so, like she just doesn't want it listening all the time. I think if it was listening all the time, there's lots of cool use cases that you could get. Like you could say, what did I say I would do? What did I need to get the grocery? Yeah. What did I promise my daughter I would do that I didn't get? Like, I think there are lots of use cases where always listening has benefits, but I don't think that most people will adopt it because of the privacy concerns.
Yeah.
Now, I do think we're getting to a world where there will be like local only. Like the local only AI models are still pretty small and not that great, but I think they're going to keep getting better and faster. And
that's a great point.
Yeah, and so like maybe if you
when we say, I even want to expand on this because the local only is an interesting thing. And when we say local only, we're talking about like it's an AI model that's not like connected to the outworld,
to Google
world
or to
type
Amazon
of scenario,
or whatever.
Or maybe certain keys to certain little doors are potentially, but it's more of a, like you're like me growing up with the best era with local area network LAN parties where we're playing. All playing on TVs and video games, but we're all in the same room rather than headsets scenarios. Is that idea that the ChatGPT type of scenario is localized to your internal
so it's running systems on your phone or your computer, right? And so your data never can, it will never leave that device.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to worry about any privacy concerns. You don't have to worry about any, a lot of security issues all of a sudden fall off. And so I think that when we have that, like models, and we have those for the most part today, they're just not that smart.
What are some of those options? Or if you wanted to wear it or have it at office. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day. They're like, I wish I could just have something in my office that's going the whole time. So then I can summarize, or if somebody told me something exactly like you said, I forgot, wait, what was this? Blah, 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 blah.
So Limitless is the best one if you want to have it in your office where it's always listening, because their software is great. You can ask questions of it. But
it requires Bluetooth, right? So you have to be to it.
Well, and it's also encrypted. It is encrypted end to end.
Same thing with Claude, I think.
Yeah, but I'm saying okay, so you were kind of asking me basically what does this exist? So there's kind of two things. One is we can talk about local models in a minute.
Sorry.
And then one is devices to always record.
Yeah.
On the device to always recording, there's the friend.com pen, which is more of a friend than it is a business thing. So I would disqualify that. So there's the Limitless AI pen. I don't know what you were talking about from Claude.
Claude.
No, I don't know.
It's like a Limitless one.
Cool.
People are used to.
So I actually don't know many companies in that space, but there is another one. I feel like, did Otter make one?
Like Otter AI?
Yeah. Did they make a device?
I don't
know. Anyways, there's lots of devices that can basically just record your transcripts. And in fact, you can just record your voice and just upload these to Gemini 2.5 Pro or whatever. There's lots of things you can do here. But as far as local models you can run, there's a bunch. So you can search these by just searching you can go to Ollama or search Ollama, local AI model 1B or 3B or 9B. And so the B there stands for the billion of parameters. And if the number's lower than 20, you can run them on most MacBook Pros these days on the M series chips. And if they're 1B or 3B, you can run them on even most Windows machines. And you can run them on most phones if they're 1B or 3B. Google has some called Gemma. Gemma 3B is kind of interesting, kind of good. These models are basically the old models from 5 years ago, right? They're pretty dumb, but they can answer most basic questions. If you say what color's the sky, it'll tell you the sky, color of the sky, and that sort of thing. So if you just wanted something local to run to talk to your kids or whatever, you could do that. You can stand up your own server in your house and have it run slightly bigger models that are slightly better. A guy named Network Chuck on YouTube has some great videos for that. If anybody is a little
Network Chuck, love you, dude.
a little bit techie or a little bit whatever, then you can stand up your own server and kind of run local models at home. I do think businesses should potentially look into that because of the data security that kind of concerns that are like there. There are really good models like the DeepSeek models, and there's a new one called Kimi T2. These are out of China, but they are local. Like you're running them locally, so it's not risk. You're not actually using the China providers for the service, so they're still totally safe. It's just an AI model that runs locally. But even OpenAI released a 120 billion model. It's called OSS recently that you could run if you had like some GPUs at your own server in your business. If anybody is curious about that and wants to reach out to me, they feel free.
Do you think that becomes more and more of a play for like technology or robots or things like of that nature?
Yeah,
as far as
definitely.
more from a localized standpoint, because I'm like sitting here thinking like my business, like I'm like I really don't know where the applications for that would be when I can do that within the Gemini or the Copilot side of things, and so then I'm trying to figure out where's the use case because I see. Okay, there's got to be a use case or why we would need that.
Yeah, toys, robots.
So how many toys
inside
or
of video
things
games
now connect to Wi-Fi to then connect to like this app so you can program this, that, or the other. But it's not really connected. It's just you have to connect to it that way to program or do some settings changes or something.
Yeah, I do think like there's like cool things for like video games. Like imagine if all of the NPCs, like all of the random characters in video games that you played all had like custom dialogue because they were powered by like an LLM instead of just like hard-coded dialogue. Yeah. So there's like really cool implications to stuff like that. Like you said, robots are perfect. Like if you had a humanoid robot and it had a VLM inside of it where it didn't need to connect to the internet, then it could actually see the world and process it because they have vision models that are small enough to run locally on like MacBook Pros and stuff.
Okay, and that's the other place we're headed is more of a VLM and being able to almost like
VLM here meaning visual language model, so it can both see the world by taking pictures and then also understand text.
What probably ends up being more of our conversation in a year or something like that is more of a browser AI scenario. It's going to be kind of the next iteration probably as far as automation and this, that, or the other.
Yeah, all the model providers are improving what's called browser use so that the models can use browsers better so that it can automate more white collar work.
Using your browser, you could automate, and there's already some companies I've seen and shown, Joseph talked about and seen, but as simple as recording a video and talking to it to just demonstrate a mouse moving around and clicking here, there, and there. It's as simple as it could be to train a model or a Chrome model or who knows what type of thing to go do that exact thing for you as if it was a human moving the mouse around, etc. So some crazy stuff coming out.
Yeah. So back on the topic of like trying these things out, but not diving too deep because new stuff might come out. I think people should do anything that's low effort, but don't deeply integrate some random AI product that takes you 80 hours to install because like it might be obsolete in 2 months, right? And you would have all that sunk cost.
Exactly.
But anything that takes you a couple hours to test out, do it because it's like you may be able to just go ahead and get huge gains from that initially. You're going to learn about a new product or a new space or a new thing AI can do. So it's kind of the succinct way to like summarize what we were saying earlier about like don't go too deep on a single thing that maybe you replace later, but also still keep dabbling and keep learning.
Yeah. Well, I keep going all day on this, but we've only got so much time, and so we'll definitely probably resume this conversation here maybe in a year or something like that. But Rezo was a REZO as the hacker community knows you. But what's the best way to kind of get in touch with you or look at some of these things?
Yeah, josephthacker.com. The Who Am I or the About Me page kind of lists a bunch of different ways to contact me. If there's parents listening or interested in AI safety for their kids, definitely check out AIsafetyforparents.com. And I think that's it.
Or if you're a major corporation that needs some ethical hacking, he's the guy to call.
Yeah, I do a lot of pen testing, like basically website hacking, and AI testing. From like an implementation perspective, I probably would not take it on, but I could definitely advise you or kind of point you in the right direction. So
yeah, cool. All right, man. It's always a pleasure. Hopefully, we got people's heads spinning a little bit in a good way today. But we'll catch up with you in about a year or something like that and see. It's gonna be wild to see where we are at that point. But we will see everybody back in a couple of weeks here in another episode of the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast. Thanks, Joseph.
Thanks. Peace.
To learn more about this podcast, visit our page at keystothecommonwealth.com. To connect with Landry regarding insuring your investment portfolio, email Landry at novainsuranceGroup.com or call 859-687-2004.